For decades, we gazed into the cosmic abyss, hoping, guessing, imagining, and searching not only for planets or stars, but for something else, unimaginable. We sent our machines, Voyager, Hubble, and now the James Webb Telescope, to pierce the darkness of space and reveal its deepest secrets. But what Webb has just discovered may not be a secret, but a message. And worse, it might be a lie. At first, the object Tri-Eye Atlas looked like just another interstellar traveler, a ghostly stone thrown into the void. But it glowed not just brightly, but pulsed with a frightening precision, like a heartbeat, like a signature. And what happened next turned out to be not just a mystery, but a warning. Stay with me until the end, because if this discovery aligns with what some scientists suggest, then we are not alone, and never have been. The James Webb Telescope was created to look further than human eyes ever could, into galaxies, places of star birth, and beyond the edge of time. During a routine survey of deep space, he detected something moving unnaturally, a speck of light where there should have been nothing. It was Tri-Eye Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object passing through our solar system. But unlike Oumuamua or Borisov, this object did not remain silent. It screamed. At first, astronomers thought it was simply reflecting light, like a comet covered in ice. But Webb's infrared sensors revealed something much stranger. The object did not reflect heat from the sun. It produced it itself. The internal thermal signal was focused and pulsed weakly. It was not the signature of a stone, but the signature of something active. As NASA and ESA teams began to analyze the data, the same thing repeated over and over. A rhythmic thermal pulse emanating from the depths of Tri-Eye Atlas. Natural objects do not behave like this. Comets emit heat when they sublimate, releasing gas and dust in unpredictable bursts. But this impulse was stable, purposeful, like a machine. When Webb's team compared the observations with known astronomical phenomena, pulsars, neutron stars, quasars, nothing matched. Then the photometric data arrived. The spectrum of light was not scattered. It was focused. Narrow bands of energy were emitted at specific wavelengths that we use in communications, those we develop for satellites, spacecraft, and lasers. That's when the whispers began. It was not a signal we received. Perhaps we just interrupted it. The scientists began filtering the signal through Fourier transforms, and beneath what appeared to be cosmic noise lay a terrible discovery. A pulse, not random, not natural, but structured. The intervals were too precise, like a whisper wrapped in chaos. Some considered it a beacon, others thought it was telemetry, data sent back somewhere. And the most frightening part? The pulse never changed. Since Webb recorded the signal, it remained absolutely unchanged, unaffected by radiation, movement, or time. It was not the voice of a dying star or a wandering planet. It was something that wanted to be heard, or perhaps something that longed to listen. Then, without warning, everything changed. 3 Atlas AIs flared up in bright light, their brightness increasing by 40% in less than 2 minutes. No natural object emits such symmetrical flashes. Thermal data showed that the entire body of the object heated up, like a machine turning on. Then, its trajectory changed. First by fractions of a degree, then with undeniable intent, 3-Eye Atlas corrected their path. They no longer followed the passive curve of gravity. They aimed not directly at Earth, but near it, aligning with the inner planets, fitting into our orbit. The maneuver was so precise and abnormal that it could not be ignored. Something inside the 3 Atlas awakened and began to move. After changing trajectory, the European Southern Observatory team deepened their analysis using spectral decomposition algorithms designed to detect organic molecules on exoplanets. They filtered the emissions from the 3 Atlas and discovered something unexpected. The energy signals had fluctuations strangely resembling biological rhythms. Not DNA, not proteins, but something more fundamental. Resonance frequencies corresponding to cellular behavior. In other words, the light emanating from 3 Atlas was not just energy. It oscillated as if it were a living fabric. It was not some asteroid accidentally mimicking life. It was a signal encoded in light, behaving like a living system. And the consequences? They are incomprehensible. If the object is partially biological, it means one of 2 things. It is alive, or contains something alive. As excitement turned to fear, a new anomaly emerged. Energy levels, so to speak, suddenly dropped. The thermal data leveled off, the emissions dimmed, and the spectral pulses lost their intensity. But the object did not slow down. It did not drift. It continued to move with cold precision, as if the machine switched to invisibility mode. Some scientists described it as a pause in heartbeat, A breath held? Was it hiding from us? Did it react to our attention? A troubling thought began to circulate. What if we are not the first to observe it? What if this is its defensive state? What if every time civilization approaches understanding, it shuts down? In any case, the loss of energy did not calm anyone. In fact, it only terrified them more, because a silent, cold, invisible probe is far more dangerous than one that shows signs of life. And then something happened much closer to home. Monitors in the South Atlantic anomaly, the weakest magnetic zone on Earth, began to detect fluctuations, not solar flares or gamma bursts, but localized electromagnetic pulses coinciding with trajectory adjustments of Atlas. When the object passed through the outer heliosphere, our planet reacted. Small changes in our magnetic field reflected impulses from the interstellar object. Physicists hurried to explain this phenomenon. No comet or asteroid has ever affected the Earth's magnetosphere from such a distance. No natural body should be capable of causing such electromagnetic reactions. The only logical conclusion: we are connected. The radiations of Atlas affect our world and possibly communicate with it. At this stage, a group of independent researchers has proposed a theory that is too bold for mainstream science, yet too convincing to ignore. They suggested that Atlas is not just a spacecraft, not merely a living probe, but a consciously created intelligence, not a machine controlled by something, nor a drone deployed by someone, but an entity of artificial or even biological intelligence, arising not in a laboratory, but in the depths of interstellar evolution. This theory suggests that in other parts of the galaxy, consciousness may develop not based on carbon and neurons, but in plasma, electromagnetic fields, and engineered materials. If this is true, then Atlas is not a guest. This is a messenger of a type of life we could never have dreamed of, a life that travels through galaxies, hides in comets, and patiently waits until civilization is advanced enough to recognize its presence. And guess what? We just did. When global observatories recalibrated their instruments for the most accurate tracking of Atlas, a troubling new measurement emerged. The effects of gravitational lensing around the object did not match its estimated mass. In fact, the distortion he caused in the surrounding space implied the presence of something much denser, or rather, something capable of manipulating gravitational fields. This shattered all the models that astrophysicists relied on to predict the motion and interaction of celestial bodies. The only case where we saw something even remotely similar? Black holes. But Atlas is not a collapsed star. It is smaller than the moon. So why does he distort the space around him? Some theorists suggested that he uses localized gravity control, not as a means of movement, but as a navigation system, like a submarine adjusting ballast to silently glide through an alien ocean. This would mean that we are dealing not just with advanced engineering, but with physics that has been conquered and mastered, rather than studied. Then came what many now consider the most compelling evidence of all. A small fragment, detached from Atlas, began rolling through space. Initially considered standard comet debris, it baffled the team when the Webb Telescope captured and analyzed its structure, revealing it had neither irregular nor organic characteristics. It was geometrically perfect, with smooth, flat surfaces, straight angles, and symmetry. A structure that could only be created by intellectual production. Even more disturbingly, he emitted no detectable temperature, being completely inert, without radiation or heat. He absorbed light but never returned it. It seemed as if he was observing while remaining unnoticed by himself. His composition consisted of unknown alloys with atomic signatures not found on Earth or in known meteorites. It was not cosmic dust. This was part of something artificially created. Astronomers at the Monarchy Observatory in Hawaii began tracking the behavior of the three-eyed Atlas's rotation. Like many elongated celestial bodies, it spun, but not randomly. Instead, his rotational pattern revealed something strange. Time intervals coinciding with certain mathematical constants. Pi, the golden ratio, and even sequences of prime numbers. It seemed that the very rotation was a transmission, a language of movement, a kind of cosmic Morse code waiting for translation. Some now believe that this rotation was intentional, that it spun not out of inertia, but performed an act. A ritual of acknowledgement, as if it repeated the message over and over, a message meant for visual perception rather than hearing. This raises the main question: are we witnesses or presumed recipients? The latest deep spectral scan of life detection algorithms revealed something that turned even the most skeptical minds into believers. Organic signatures, unstable carbon chains, unfossilized proteins, and shimmering signals corresponding to replicating structures. These were not fully living organisms, but they were predecessors. A framework of biological components, synthetic or natural, embedded in the tail of Atlas. Two possibilities emerged. First, it could be a form of biological camouflage, an artificially created imitation designed to deceive primitive sensors into thinking Atlas is natural, a tactic used by many species on Earth, such as octopuses, cuttlefish, and even viruses. But the second theory is significantly more alarming. This biological remnant could be an intentional seed, a delivery system for spreading extraterrestrial genetic code, as if Atlas is not just a probe, but a messenger of life. Modern panspermia, using advanced propulsion methods not for studying life, but for its dissemination. As the object approached the inner edge of our solar system, several magnetometers, both on Earth and on deep space probes, began to detect strange oscillations. These were not chaotic disturbances you might expect from a solar storm, but precise rhythmic changes in local magnetic fields. These impulses appeared in threes, like a metronome with purpose, and they did not weaken with distance. In fact, their amplitude increased as the three-eyed Atlas approached, indicating that the object not only emitted magnetic energy, but interacted with our planet as if it were scanning or synchronizing with the solar system's magnetic field, a pattern unlike any in nature. Some compared it to a handshake protocol, as if a spacecraft were establishing a secure connection. But with what? The sun, the Earth, or something yet undiscovered, lurking between the planets? Here, everything becomes even more unsettling. Communication specialists attempted to respond by sending carefully coded radio signals back to the 3-inch Atlas, using deep space network antennas. The signals were constructed based on simple numbers, binary mathematics, and even artificial tones reminiscent of musical intervals. But there was no response, neither echo nor rebound, nothing, except that an hour after the last signal, the 3-inch Atlas slightly changed its rotation speed. This was not very noticeable to most instruments, but enough to be observed by the crew that sent the message. Some perceived it as confirmation, others as disregard. But in any case, it was not accidental. He behaved not like a natural object absorbing a message, but like an entity aware of the contact and choosing not to respond. In intelligence analysis, this is called conscious non-communication, a psychological tactic where silence speaks louder than an answer, and in the endless vacuum of space, silence becomes terrifying. Looking back at historical astronomical records, researchers discovered something unexpected. Subtle disturbances in infrared surveys of the celestial sphere, dated decades ago. In 1987, 1998, and 2013, there were small anomalies along the same vector that the 3-inch Atlas is currently following, suggesting it may have passed by our system before. But the most interesting part, each appearance coincides with a sharp increase in unexplained radio bursts and gravitational wave anomalies recorded at the time. This raises a chilling question. Was the 3-inch Atlas here before? And more importantly, is it happening again? If this is true, then it is not just an object passing by. It is a recurring presence, possibly observing the cycles of planetary development, human progress, or perhaps something much deeper, encoded in Earth's own timeline. Recent calculations of its trajectory revealed something that shocked the community. The 3-inch Atlas is not moving directly toward Earth or the Sun. Instead, its path is curved, bringing it closer to Jupiter's moon, Europa. And even more curiously, the adjusted arc intersects with Saturn's moon, Enceladus, if the object passes by again. Both are icy worlds, both hide subsurface oceans, and both are considered prime candidates for extraterrestrial life in our solar system. Thus, a new theory arose. What if the Earth is not the goal at all? What if this entity, whatever it is, visits oceanic worlds to observe, sow, or awaken life hidden beneath the ice? We thought we were special. We assumed we were the target. But what if the true interest of the 3-inch Atlas lies in what is hidden beneath the surfaces of moons we have yet to reach? As deep space transmissions began to fade into static and the object continued its silent journey, one theory gained horrifying recognition. What if the 3AI Atlas do not emit signals for communication because they do not need to? What if they are not trying to speak, but to listen? Imagine a probe so advanced and ancient that its sole function is observation without interference. No lasers, no landing crafts, no messages, only passive absorption of everything around. Atmospheric resonances, electromagnetic fields, emissions of human technologies, even biological rhythms from Earth. Some researchers began to suggest that his silence is neither a malfunction nor a defense mechanism, but his original design. The perfect spy, invisible, elusive, until now. This reinterpreted the entire history, as if the 3I Atlas is a probe, and it had already been in this system before, then this is not its first report. Perhaps it has already sent its data, and the real question remains, to whom? The most disturbing discovery came last. A research team at the California Institute of Technology ran organic spectral data through a comparative model, not against alien life, but against earthly genomic markers. They discovered that it was not a coincidence, but also not entirely foreign. There were structural parallels, repeating nucleotide-like structures, an echo of patterns we see in viruses, retrotransposons, even in ancient non-coding DNA sequences. The possibility that biological remnants following the 3 Atlas AIs may contain information encoded in a universal genetic language, a structure so fundamental that it can adapt to various planetary conditions, whether through evolution or design. In other words, this object may carry instructions for creating life, not only seeds of alien biology, but possibly the very templates from which life on Earth originated. The implications of this discovery extend beyond science, touching on origins, purpose, and authorship. And if that is the case, the final mystery is not only what the 3I Atlas is, the question is, who sent it? So now we know. The 3I Atlas is not just a visitor, not just an object passing through our sky. This is a question, a challenge, a reflection of our own pride and deep fears. We looked into the darkness hoping to find stars and instead found an observer, a listener, perhaps even a messenger. But from where? From what time? From whom? The James Webb Telescope provided us with data, but it did not bring peace because what it discovered there, organic traces, magnetic impulses, engineering symmetry, and coded patterns, does not indicate nature. It indicates intent. And when the universe reveals its intention, it means we are no longer alone in this story. And that is true anxiety, isn't it? That something has been watching us all this time, that our radio signals did not echo into the void. They reached something much older, much more patient. Now it has returned. Whether it is a probe, a carrier of probes, or the creator of probes, its silence is not ignorance, but a deliberate choice. If the decision not to speak has been made, then let us ask ourselves, what are we waiting for? Share your thoughts in the comments, for we may be witnessing the first chapter of the greatest discovery in human history. And if you want to stay updated on all the events to come, subscribe and follow the news, because this story is not yet finished.